Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councillor Richard Millard. I'm the leader of East Hampshire District Council. I would like to welcome everyone to this Cabinet meeting this evening, or this afternoon, which we're holding in a hybrid form. In line with government guidance, 6 individuals are physically present in this COVID-secure building and are sat at least 2 metres apart. The majority of Cabinet members and officers will be joining remotely. However, I am joined in the Council chamber by Councillor Julie Butler, Deputy Leader, Councillor Robert McCatter, Portfolio Holder for Community Development, Placemaking and Infrastructure, Jill Neller, Chief Executive, James Harris, Deputy Democratic Services Team Leader, and Mrs Morrison, who is the Head of Finance. Chief Finance Officer. That's the one. Welcome. That wasn't on my list, you see. Aside from the Cabinet members, the following officers are also present virtually. We have Daniel Toohey, who's the Acting Head of Legal and Democratic Services and Management Monitoring Officer. See, Lydia Morrison is actually here physically. You're not supposed to be here. Simon Jenkins, Executive Director. Claire Chester, Head of Regeneration and Economy. Tracy Woods, Head of Housing and Community Engagement. And Sarah Hobbs, Senior Community Infrastructure Officer. Can I please ask all in attendance to note this meeting is being recorded and that the recording will be published on the Council's website. IP addresses are not collected. However, in order to function, Skype for Business collects background data limited to when a user enters and leaves the meeting and the web browser version used. Data collected will be kept and recorded for the purposes of this meeting only. If at any point a member of the committee joining remotely loses their connection, I shall adjourn the meeting for a short period to allow them to reconnect. As a reminder, if a member of the committee is not present for the whole duration of the item, they are precluded from voting. Okay, I'll move to the first agenda item. Apologies for absence. Mr. Harris, do we have any?
Thank you, Leader. Apologies today from Councillor Thomas.
Thank you. Okay, confirmation of attendance and declarations of interest. I, Councillor Millard, confirm my attendance and I have no interest to declare on any of the agenda items. Councillor Butler, can you please confirm your attendance and state whether you have any interest to declare on any of the items being considered at this meeting?
Thank you. And Councillor Butler, and I have no interest to declare.
Councillor Costigan, can I ask you the same?
Councillor Costigan, in attendance. I have no interest to declare.
Councillor Drew.
Hello, I'm Councillor Drew. I confirm my attendance and I have no interest to declare.
Councillor Glass.
Thank you. I can confirm my attendance and I have no interest, nothing to declare.
Councillor Lewison.
Councillor Charles Lewison, confirm my attendance and have no interest to declare in any agenda item.
Councillor McCatter.
I am Councillor Robert McCatter. I confirm my presence and I have no interest in any of the agenda items.
Excellent. And Councillor Moon. Councillor Moon. Councillor Moon.
Sorry, Leader, I was muted. I'm Councillor Moon. I am in attendance and I have nothing to declare with regards to the agenda.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Okay, confirmation of minutes. Do any members of the committee have any amendments to the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of September 2020? If so, can you please state your name and the amendment required? No? Excellent. Then in that case, with no amendments, can I have a proposer to confirm the minutes, please? Councillor McCatter, can I have a seconder?
Happy to be seconded.
Butler. Are we agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay. Right. Now we will move on to the substantive part of the agenda, which is item 5, which is pages 1 to 246, which I do hope you've all read before we join this meeting. It's under the Community Development, Placemaking and Infrastructure portfolio. And it is Councillor McCatter introducing this, and it is the East Hampshire Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan. Over to you, Councillor McCatter.
Thank you, Leader. EHDC is going to be the second district in Hampshire to have an operational local cycling, walking and infrastructure plan, when the council approves this agenda item. It's for noting for Cabinet today, and will go to full council for a final decision. An LCWIP, as it's known, is an idea that's come out of the Department of Transport's plans to increase cycling and walking. And I would particularly refer fellow Cabinet members to item 3.2 on the executive summary about our strategy is to double cycling by 2025, to increase walking activity, and most importantly, to significantly increase the proportion of our kids that walk to school. This strategy is designed to encourage walking and cycling as part of daily lives. If the outcome is also that people walk and cycle more for leisure and for pleasure, that's a benefit as well. But this is all about getting our residents to see active travel as a way of being engaged in their daily lives. And I particularly want to draw attention to point 3.8 about the current number of journeys done in East Hampshire. This is obviously based on the census, which is 2011, that 2% of journeys in East Hampshire are done by bike, 9% of walking, 80% are made by private car. Given the nature of the district, we want to encourage our residents, particularly those living in the towns, to try and increase the number of journeys they do on foot and by bicycle or electric bicycle, to try and increase those proportions over the next decade. The whole purpose of a local cycling and walking infrastructure plan is to give the district council, the town councils, the parish councils and the county councils the infrastructure requests that as funding becomes available, they're able to put in place in order to improve the infrastructure for these two activities in East Hampshire. I particularly want to thank Sarah Hobbs, who's been looking after this report for the last couple of years. And I also want to bring people's attention to the fact that it's done, the report, which forms the bulk of what we have in front of us, was actually done by a set of Bristol-based consultants, whom the main one is a lady called Jess Reed. Hampshire County Council last Monday had its first ever walking and cycling summit, and Jess Reed was one of the keynote speakers for that. We had about 220 people from across Hampshire listening and attending that virtual conference. It had originally been planned to obviously have it in person. That wasn't possible, and she was one of the main speakers on that. So she's an authority about trying to encourage walking and cycling. So I think it's a very high quality report. The other thing I want to bring to people's attention is that there's been considerable consultation with a very large range of local groups, from the National Park to the town councils to cycling groups in Alton and in Petersfield, and walking groups throughout the district. So it's a document that's gone for a huge amount of consultation, and it's a living document, so it's not fixed. So as more information comes in, as new ideas come forward, they can be added to, and that's very much the intention, to continually update it. I'm happy to answer questions. We've obviously talked about this before. It's a very detailed report, which goes through all the main towns and the links between the towns in considerable point-by-point detail of what the potential infrastructure upgrades would be, and some idea of their cost. Happy to answer any questions anyone has on it, and I recommend the note to my fellow Cabinet members.
Thank you, Councillor McAtter. Do anyone wish to add or provide questions to Councillor McAtter on this subject? If you'd like to indicate. Councillor Butler?
Not a question, but I'd just like to support this. It's a huge piece of work. It's very, very good, very, very detailed. For me, with my with the welfare and the well-being strategy, I mean, this is just so many ticks in the boxes to get people to go out, supporting them with mental health, obesity, all real big stuff that's actually on the news at the moment. So it just proves that we're really trying to sort of push that agenda forward as well. And the other thing, of course, is the climate strategy that we've also adopted here. It will help with clean air and everything else that goes with that as well. So I'm a huge fan of the work that's done here. I think it's a tremendous piece of work, and I congratulate everybody that's been working alongside you with it as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Glass, did you wish to answer a question?
Thank you. Sorry, I mistyped something there. No, I really just wanted to make a comment and say that I welcome this as well. And I'm sure that everybody would like to walk or to cycle more than they can at the moment. It's something to aim for, and anything that is a living document and can be added to gradually is to be very much welcomed. So I really do think this is an excellent piece of work. Thank you.
Councillor Moon.
Thank you, Leader. I think it's an excellent piece of work. My question to Councillor McCatter is that obviously, like Clanfield, we took a lot of development over recent years, and the substantial sums were put aside to enable this sort of thing to happen. Can one assume that places like the land east of Horndean will also generate funding that will allow for the development of this strategy going forward? I'd hope it would enable a lot of the good work that's in there to actually start to happen.
Thank you, Councillor Moon. I think this is an important issue, that once the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan is part of our range of available strategy documents, then planning developments have to take it into consideration. I think there's clearly an issue for land east of Horndean that it was done before we had an operational LCWIP, and therefore projects coming forward in the future will have to take account of what's in this document in a way that planning applications in the past haven't had to. And I think it's a significant change of emphasis for developers going forward in the way they think about walking and cycling within East Hampshire. In the specific case of land east Horndean, there certainly is some provision for cycling and walking. Obviously, with that particular hat on, there could have been more, but I think it'd be wrong to say there isn't, that it's a level that is not acceptable to the current planning authority.
Councillor Lewison.
Yeah, I'd just like to join my colleagues in congratulating the team on a great piece of work. I'm really pleased to hear it's a living document, because I think clearly this initially is focused on the larger towns, and I would like to see it expanded in its next generation to give a little bit more attention to the villages. But otherwise, great piece of work, and very glad to see it coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to the recommendation, I also would like to echo my thanks to the team and to the officers. Again, this shows just the level of work that's being put together in extremely challenging times by the officer corps to such a high level and high standard. I think it's extremely exciting. I think it is what's needed. And I think that, as Councillor Lewison mentioned, this is a great starting point to be able to add and develop. And I think that it's quite an exciting moment. So very, very impressed. Oh, sorry, Councillor Drew, I think I've missed you.
Only twice. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So the two items I had were, first of all, I agree with many of the other councillors, a great piece of work to start the process with. The things that a couple of comments that I come along with from various residents are very much a view that a lot of the roads that we have today, or infrastructure we have today, are very competitive. What we mean by that is there's a competition on the use of those roads, whether that be lorries, cars, pedestrians, horses, motorcyclists, and so on. And therefore, I think we have to be really careful with any walking and cycling strategy, that we ensure that we're noting those hot spots or those roads where that competition is going on, and we're allowing for that in some sort of within that strategy, so we have a correct flow and don't have any injuries on those areas. The second piece is very much again about safety. Is that it's great to see so many walking and cycle zones within the towns. However, obviously it will get darker soon, if not already, and therefore it's ensuring that those people that are walking feel safe walking. And so I'd love to see obviously how we're going to ensure that surveillance piece, perhaps, or that safety piece is included in this strategy perhaps a little bit more. And then obviously, even though I said it was only 2 points, I lied. And the third point, very much akin to Councillor Lewison's point, is that I really would love to see a great deal more about the connection with the rural villages and areas, because obviously from a lot of bike users, for example, it's very difficult to get from one rural area, perhaps even into Petersfield, with the various block points that we have from a traffic point of view. So I don't know if you can comment on that today, but I'd love to see more of that in future work in this strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joy. I do want to comment on that. One of the things that Hampshire talked about at this Walking and Cycling Summit on Monday was exactly what you've raised, is the idea of trying to reduce conflict between different types of users on different networks. And the new HCC guidance is very much designed to reduce the amount of shared paths so there's less conflict between cyclists and walkers, and having dedicated cycle paths where possible, and treating cyclists as a different type of traffic. So that's very much the new guidelines that HCC is going to work with, is trying to make sure there's less scope for conflict in spaces, and actually try and make sure that the different users are segregated in a way they're all going to feel safe. That the view being that for if we're aiming to encourage people who are nervous pedestrians onto rural areas, or people who are nervous cyclists, actually conflict with other walkers and cyclists doesn't help that. So trying to, in the future, minimize those sources of potential conflict between different types of users, so they all feel safe in the way they use the highway, the bridleway and the footpath network.
Thank you. Before I go to recommendations, does anybody else have a comment they wish to make if I've missed you, or you wish to add a supplementary comment? No? Good. Okay, I'll go to page 1, section 2, which is the recommendations. 2.1, Cabinet is recommended to note the East Hampshire Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan as an evidence base. 2.2, Cabinet is recommended to approve that delegated authority be given to the Director of Regeneration in place to determine the agreed approach and scope of the prioritisation work to be carried out in partnership with Hampshire County Council, along with the associated budget of up to £15,000. Are we agreed?
Agreed.
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 Thank you. Okay, we'll go to section 6, which is an update on EHDC's involvement in the Whiteland Borden Town Centre. That falls under me as the leader with corporate strategy. As the report says, it's been a challenging time as we've gone through the COVID period, but I have to say, yet again, the officer team with Claire Chester and Danielle, etc., and their colleagues have done an absolutely fantastic job in ensuring that while the world crumbles, we still continue to be heavily involved in driving forward with our partner providers, the actual infrastructure. And it's looking, I have to say, it's looking pretty exciting. This is the first real update from me, and this is the beginning of what I fully intend to be many, because from now moving forward, we're starting to get into the delivery phase particularly heavily, and there's a lot of very positive things that will be coming through. The Makers Market, the initial ground clearing and cutting took place, and the ceremony happened a couple of weeks ago. That's now moving forward at pace, and with the building design and type, you'll see if you pass the site the way that it's actually going up very rapidly, because a steel frame building is not there one night and the following week it's up and looking great. So that's really quite exciting. The Health Hub project, which I think is an absolute key focal point for the community and for us as well. It's taken a long time. It's very complex, but I think we're getting to the stage where we're in the position we need to be. And I think that moving forward with the public sector partners who we're working with, I think that we will be in a position to see some very positive movement forward very rapidly, and that's in a fairly short order. We really are pushing very hard on this, and we're very heavily involved to ensure that we get the facility that the town wants and needs and has always said they wanted. I'd like to thank as well greater involvement with, from my point of view, Councillor Andy Tree from the Town Council. I'm having very regular discussions and I'm finding them extremely helpful. Councillor Tree is a very good knowledge base on lots of things, and I think it's important to involve and use his expertise on these things as well. So we've been doing that. As usual, the DIO particularly and Taylor Wimpey, Dorchester, we're all working very, very closely together. But just going for some other points, the Guadalupe car park, the construction of the new pedestrian way in through to the leisure centre is being undertaken now. That will allow direct access from the high street into the site. The leisure centre itself is very, very near completion, and we're talking a matter of weeks, less than weeks, to be finished. And obviously we'll have a launch event and give full public information on that. But the site is really quite impressive. I managed to look around, not into all of the insides of it over the last couple of weeks, and it's looking very, very impressive. The whole site actually is really starting to come together, and I think when the tarmac is laid over the coming days, it's going to suddenly draw everything together. So it's really quite an impressive position that we're in on that. The M3 LEP, we were successful assisting our partners to apply and get awarded a 4.8 million grant, which supported infrastructure and public realm. So that's in the bag. That's now been granted, so we're using that to start moving things forward on that area. The town centre with, I say, the leisure centre. We've also got the investment walking and cycling infrastructure, which is the green grid loop, green loop. So that's all progressing well. So all in all, what I want to do is just to ensure that the communication to not only the cabinet, to the public, to the town council continues and is extended. We are looking at how we move forward on some of the reporting mechanisms to ensure there is greater visibility and involvement from certain areas. So I think that all in all, the whole process is very much moving in the right direction. I think that to add to that, I'll go to Claire Chester, who really is the brains and mastermind driving all this forward. So, Claire, is there anything else you wish to add before I go to the rest of the members?
Thank you, Leader. Good evening, everyone. Only to add, and Leader, you commented that the pace is incredible. Even since we published the cabinet paper, as you mentioned, the Makers Market Space ceremony happened, and that's now ground has been broken and work is underway. You mentioned the leisure centre, work continues at pace, and as you say, it's almost there and ready to open. Two other points I'd just draw your attention to. The green grid, green loop fits well with the work that Councillor McAtter was just talking about, because that is inherently part of that LCWIP strategy. That is Borden's contribution, White and Borden's contribution to that cycling and walking network around the town. So there's a really clear link. And the last bit of good news is, work continues to support all our partners in the town. The Phoenix Theatre, for example, was successful recently with securing £50,000 under the Cultural Recovery Fund as well. So there's lots of broad work, as well as those key bits of infrastructure to work with that wide range of partners that you discussed, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions or comments you wish to make? Just trying to make sure I haven't missed anybody like last time. No, I don't think so on there. No one in the room? No? Okay, what I'll do then is I'll go to the agenda item, which is on page 247, and the recommendations begin in section 2. 2.1, members are required to note the update and the significant progress made in respect to the White and Borden Town Centre projects as listed below. A, Health Hub project. Work that the council has undertaken with partners to help drive forward proposals to develop the Health Hub proposals and update on the potential role of the council as an investor. B, Public Hub feasibility project. Work underway with public sector partners to consider opportunities for town centre accommodation, including potential for a district council satellite office. C, Guadalupe car park. Construction of new pedestrian access to the leisure centre and work to consider longer term alignment to town centre plans. D, public sector funding report, successful enterprise M3 local enterprise partnership, LEP award of 4.8 million to support town centre infrastructure and public realm. And E, other town centre related projects, including significant progress made with the leisure centre and investment in walking and cycling infrastructure, green grid, green loop. Are we noted or agreed?
Agreed.
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 Excellent, thank you very much. Well, as far as I can see, that now brings an end to the meeting. So thank you all very much for attending. Thank you, members of the public, for attending, and have a good evening and good night.
Thank you. Good night.